heard the crack before I felt the pain. One second, I was walking down my driveway to get the mail. The next, my feet flew out from under me and I was falling. My hip hit the ice with a sound like a branch snapping, and the world went white with agony. I don't know how long I lay there. 5 minutes? 20? Help! I tried to call out, but my voice came out as a whisper. My neighbors' houses stood silent around me. Everyone was at work. Everyone except me, the retired librarian who'd picked the absolute worst time to check her mailbox. That's how my neighbor Denise found me eventually, shivering, barely conscious. "Oh my God, Joan!" She was calling 911, her voice high and panicked. "Hold on, honey." In the ambulance, through waves of pain, all I could think was, I'm 72 years old and I live alone. What happens now? The ER doctor was young, efficient, kind. "Hip fracture," she said, showing me the x-rays. "You'll need surgery. But you're in good shape for 72, no reason you shouldn't make a full recovery." That was the last time anyone would tell me I was in good shape. My name is Joan Peters. What I'm about to tell you is something I never imagined could happen to me. A retired librarian from Portland, Oregon. But it did happen, in my own home, in my own kitchen, every single morning for 3 months, while I smiled and said thank you. Because what happened after I broke my hip? I never saw it coming. My son David called from Denver the day after my surgery. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I wish I could be there, but this project..." "I know, honey. It's fine. I'll manage." I was lying in the hospital bed, drugged up on pain medication, trying to sound more capable than I felt. "Actually," he said, and I could hear something shift in his tone. "Nicole and I talked. She wants to move in with you for a few weeks. Help you recover." Nicole, my daughter-in-law. We'd never been particularly close, but not enemies either, just polite. She was 8 years younger than David, beautiful in that Instagram way, always perfectly put together, always posting about wellness and self-care and living your best life. "David, I don't want to be a bother. I can hire someone." "She really wants to do this, Mom. She's been researching post-op recovery protocols. She's excited about helping you." I was scared. I'd never had major surgery before. The idea of being alone in my house, unable to walk, unable to do basic things, it terrified me. So I said yes. Nicole moved in the day I came home from the hospital. She'd transformed my downstairs guest room into what looked like a recovery suite. Hospital bed rails she'd ordered online, a bedside table with all my medications organized in one of those weekly pill organizers, fresh flowers on the dresser. It looked professional, thoughtful, like something out of a home care magazine. "I want you to focus entirely on healing, Mom," she said, helping me settle into the bed. Her blonde ponytail was perfect, not a hair out of place. She was wearing expensive yoga pants and a matching top. "Don't worry about anything. I've got it all planned out, Mom." She'd never called me Mom before. It was always Joan. "Thank you, Nicole. This is really kind of you." "We're family," she said, adjusting my pillows with careful precision. "Family takes care of each other." The next morning, I woke to the aggressive whir of the blender, that violent sound of vegetables being obliterated. Nicole appeared in my doorway moments later with a tall glass of something that looked like swamp water. "Good morning." She was impossibly chipper for 7 a.m. "I made you a special recovery smoothie. It's got kale, blueberries, banana, Greek yogurt, and some supplements I picked up at Whole Foods. They're formulated for bone health." I looked at the murky, green-brown liquid skeptically. "What kind of supplements?" "Calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, collagen peptides, all the things your body needs to heal properly. The doctor said nutrition is crucial for recovery, remember?" He had said that. I took the glass from her. It was heavy, thick. I took a sip. It tasted like grass clippings mixed with dirt, but I forced a smile. "It's healthy," I said. "You'll get used to the taste," Nicole said, and I noticed she was watching me, her eyes tracking the glass as I brought it to my lips. "Drink all of it. Your bones need every bit of nutrition they can get." So I did, every drop, because she was helping me, because that's what you do when someone shows you kindness. You accept it gracefully, even when it tastes terrible. The first week after surgery was exactly what you'd expect. Painful, frustrating, humiliating. I needed help getting to the bathroom. I couldn't shower without someone there. Simple tasks like putting on socks became monumental challenges, and I started to feel guilty for all the years I'd kept her at arm's length. Maybe I'd been wrong about her. Maybe that feeling I'd always had, that vague unease, was just me being a judgmental mother-in-law, the kind of woman who thinks no one is good enough for her son. "I'm sorry you have to do this," I said one morning as she helped me to the bathroom. "Don't be silly. This is what family does." She squeezed my hand. "I'm actually glad we're getting this time together. We've never really connected before." It was true, and whose fault was that? I'd always been polite but distant. Now, here she was, seeing me at my most vulnerable, my most helpless, and she never made me feel like a burden. Every morning, that green smoothie. Every morning, she'd stand right there while I drank it, smiling encouragingly. "For your bones, Mom," she'd say. And I'd think, I misjudged this woman. She really does care. I even told my friend Margaret about it when she called to check on me. "Nicole has been wonderful," I said. "I feel terrible for how standoffish I've been all these years." "Well, crisis has a way of bringing people together," Margaret said. "I'm glad you're not alone." I wasn't alone, but by the second week, something changed. I started feeling worse instead of better. Not the hip. According to Dr. Morrison, that was healing on schedule, but everything else. I was exhausted all the time. Dizzy when I stood. My hands trembled when I tried to hold my book. My hair started coming out in clumps in the shower. "Is this normal?" I asked Dr. Morrison at my 2-week follow-up. He reviewed my chart, his face concerned, but not alarmed. "Recovery can be tough at your age. Your body's been through significant trauma. Give it time. At your age." Those 3 words that explain everything and nothing. That night, David called from Denver. I was in my room, but the door was open. I could hear him talking to Nicole in the kitchen. "How's Mom really doing?" he asked. "She's struggling more than I expected," Nicole said, her voice sympathetic, concerned. "She's very tired, confused sometimes. I think the surgery took more out of her than the doctors realized." Confused? I wasn't confused. I was exhausted, yes, but my mind was fine. "Should I come home?" David asked. No. I've got this under control. You focus on the Denver project. Your mom just needs time and rest and good nutrition." I could hear the smile in her voice. "I'm making sure she gets everything she needs." After they hung up, Nicole brought me my evening medications with a glass of water. As she handed them to me, I noticed she was looking at something on her phone. The screen was angled away from me, but I could see it reflected in the mirror across from my bed. She was looking at my bank account, my personal bank account, the one she shouldn't have access to. "Nicole," I said carefully, "what are you doing?" She looked up, startled, and quickly locked her phone. "Oh, just checking to make sure your automatic bill payments went through. You mentioned you were worried about forgetting things while you recovered." Had I said that? I couldn't remember. Maybe I had. Everything felt foggy lately. "That's thoughtful," I said slowly. "But everything's on autopay. You don't need to worry about that." "Just being thorough." She smiled brightly. "Now get some rest. Big day of physical therapy tomorrow, and I'll have your smoothie ready when you wake up." That night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. Something was wrong. I just couldn't figure out what. By week 6, I'd lost 15 pounds. My clothes hung off me like I was playing dress-up in someone else's closet. My face in the mirror looked gaunt. Cheekbones too sharp, eyes too hollow, skin too gray. My hair was noticeably thinner. I kept finding strands everywhere. On my pillow, in the drain, on my shoulders. "You're looking so thin, Mom," Nicole said one morning, delivering the daily smoothie. "We need to get more protein into you. I'm going to add some powder to your smoothies." "Maybe I should just eat regular food," I suggested weakly. "I don't think the smoothies are helping." Her expression shifted, just slightly, but I saw it, a flash of something cold, before the smile returned. "The smoothies are packed with exactly what your body needs," she said firmly. "You're not eating enough solid food because the pain meds suppress your appetite. The smoothies ensure you're getting proper nutrition." Dr. Morrison specifically said, "I know what he said," I interrupted, hearing the irritation in my own voice. Or I tried to interrupt, but the words came out wrong, slurred, like my tongue was too thick for my mouth. Nicole's eyes sharpened. "Are you okay, Mom? You sound a little off." "I'm fine," I said, but Even that sounded garbled to my own ears. Just tired. You're exhausted. That's exactly why you need to drink your smoothie. She held the glass closer. Come on, the nutrients will help. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an order delivered with a smile. That afternoon, while Nicole was out grocery shopping, I forced myself out of bed. My hip screamed in protest, but I made it to the bathroom. Really looked at myself in the full-length mirror for the first time in weeks. I looked like I was dying. That's when I noticed my teeth. The edges looked translucent, fragile. When I touched one with my finger, a sharp pain shot through my jaw. I had a dentist appointment coming up. Just my regular 6-month cleaning. I'd almost canceled it. Couldn't handle one more medical appointment. But standing there, looking at my deteriorating reflection, I decided to keep it. What I didn't know then was that Dr. Lee, my dentist of 20 years, was about to save my life, and that the health smoothie I'd been drinking every morning wasn't building my bones at all. If you're connecting with my story, please press that like button to bring some light into my heart. It helps me know I'm not alone in this. The dental appointment was on a Thursday morning. Nicole drove me, of course. She'd been driving me everywhere since the surgery. I'll wait in the car, she said when we pulled into the parking lot. I've got some calls to make. Text me when you're done. I nodded and made my way slowly into the building, using my cane. My hip was actually healing well. Dr. Morrison had been pleased at my last checkup. It was everything else that was falling apart. The dental hygienist, Sarah, had been cleaning my teeth for years. When she helped me into the chair, her smile faltered. Joan, are you feeling okay? You look... I know, I said. I've lost some weight. Hip surgery recovery has been rough. She didn't look convinced, but she started the cleaning. About halfway through, she stopped and called Dr. Lee in. Dr. Lee had been my dentist for 20 years. I'd watched her go from a nervous young practitioner to a confident professional who knew my mouth better than I did. When she walked in and looked at me, really looked at me, her expression changed. Joan, she said carefully, when was your last appointment? 6 months ago, right on schedule. She pulled up my previous x-rays on the computer screen, then took new ones. I watched her face as she compared them, watched the concern deepen into something darker. Sarah, can you give us a moment? Dr. Lee said quietly. After the hygienist left, Dr. Lee sat down on the stool next to me. Joan, I need you to tell me exactly what medications you're taking. All of them, including any supplements or vitamins. Just the post-surgery medications, I said. Why? What's wrong? She pulled up the x-rays side by side, 6 months ago and today. Even I could see the difference. My teeth looked wrong, darker, thinner somehow. Joan, your teeth are deteriorating in a way I've never seen in my entire career. Not from poor hygiene, not from medication side effects, not from normal aging. She paused. This level of enamel erosion, combined with the weight loss, the hair thinning you mentioned, the trembling in your hands I noticed when you signed, these aren't symptoms of recovery. These are symptoms of something else. My heart started pounding. What are you saying? Dr. Lee leaned forward. I need you to think very carefully. Is there anyone in your life who has access to your food, your drinks? Who prepares your meals? The question hung in the air. I thought about Nicole, standing in my kitchen every morning with that blender. My daughter-in-law, I whispered. She's been staying with me, helping me recover. She makes me a smoothie every morning with supplements. What kind of supplements? I don't know exactly, I said, realizing how naive that sounded the moment it left my mouth. Dr. Lee stood up and walked to her desk. She wrote something on a notepad, tore off the page, and handed it to me. It was a name and phone number. This is a toxicologist I know. I want you to call him today, but Joan, she gripped my hand. Her palm was warm, steady. Mine was shaking. Don't let your daughter-in-law know you're suspicious. Do you understand? Act completely normal until you know what you're dealing with. You think she's... I couldn't even say the word. I think you need to find out what's in those supplements. Today, I left the office in a daze. Nicole was waiting in the car, scrolling through her phone. When she saw me, she smiled brightly. All good? She asked. Just a cleaning. Everything's fine, I lied. The words felt thick in my mouth. On the drive home, Nicole chattered about meal plans and physical therapy schedules. I barely heard her. All I could think about was Dr. Lee's face, the way she'd looked at those x-rays, the words she hadn't said, but I'd heard anyway. When we got home, Nicole helped me inside and settled me in my room. I'm going to make lunch. Vegetable soup okay? Actually, I'm not very hungry. I think I'll just rest. You need to eat, Mom. You're already too thin. There was an edge to her voice. Later, I said firmly. I need to rest first. After she left, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My mind was racing. Was I really suspecting my daughter-in-law of poisoning me? It sounded insane, like something from a TV show, not real life. But my teeth, my hair, my weight said otherwise. I needed to see those supplements. Nicole kept them in the kitchen, in a cabinet above the refrigerator. I'd seen her reach up there every morning when she made my smoothies, but I'd never looked closely, never questioned what she was putting in them. I waited until I heard the shower running upstairs. Nicole always took long showers, at least 30 minutes. It was one of the few times I was truly alone. I got out of bed slowly, quietly. My hip protested, but I ignored it. I made my way to the kitchen, moving as fast as I dared. The cabinet was high. I couldn't reach it without a step stool. I dragged one over from the pantry, climbed up carefully, and opened the cabinet door. There were bottles inside. Lots of them. Calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, collagen peptides, all the things Nicole had mentioned. All normal supplements you could buy at any health food store. But in the back, pushed behind the others, was an unmarked white container. No label, no ingredients list, just a plain white jar with a screw-top lid. I took it down, my hands shaking. The jar was about half full of white powder. It looked like protein powder or maybe flour, but why was it unmarked? Why was it hidden in the back? I heard the shower shut off upstairs. Panic flooded through me. I shoved the jar back where I'd found it, closed the cabinet, and climbed down as quietly as I could. I was putting the step stool back in the pantry when I heard Nicole's footsteps on the stairs. Mom, she called. What are you doing up? She appeared in the kitchen doorway, her hair wet, wearing a bathrobe. Her eyes went immediately to the step stool, which I hadn't quite pushed all the way back into the pantry, then to me, then to the cabinet above the refrigerator. Did you need something from up there? She asked. Her voice was light, but her eyes weren't. Oh no, I was just looking for a glass, I said, trying to sound casual. The glasses are in the lower cabinet, Mom. Like always. The edge was back in her voice. Right, I forgot. I'm still a bit foggy from the pain meds. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Let me get you some water. You shouldn't be standing so much. Your hip needs rest. She guided me back to my room with a hand on my elbow. I sat on the bed and she handed me a glass of water. Drink, she said. You're probably dehydrated. That can make you confused. I looked at the water. Crystal clear. Probably perfectly safe. Thank you, I said, and took a small sip. After she left, I poured the rest of the water into the plant on my bedside table. I wasn't taking any chances. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that unmarked jar, about Dr. Lee's face, about the way Nicole had looked at me in the kitchen like she knew I'd been snooping. Around midnight, I heard something. Movement in the house. Soft footsteps. I lay very still, pretending to be asleep. My bedroom door opened slowly. I could feel Nicole standing there in the darkness, watching me. I kept my breathing slow and even, my eyes closed. After what felt like forever, she left. But I heard her in the kitchen. The sound of the refrigerator opening, the clink of glass, the quiet whir of the blender, much softer than usual, like she was trying not to wake me. She was preparing tomorrow's smoothie. The next morning, Nicole brought it to me with her usual bright smile. Good morning. Fresh smoothie for my favorite patient. I looked at that murky liquid and felt sick. You know, I think I'd like to try eating solid food today. Maybe some eggs? Oh, but you love your smoothies. Her smile stayed in place, but her voice got sharper. Come on, Mom. You know how important these are for your recovery. I just want eggs, please, I said, trying to sound firm. You can have eggs after you drink your smoothie. She held the glass closer. The supplements need to be taken on an empty stomach for maximum absorption. Remember? I didn't remember her ever saying that before, but I took the glass, brought it to my lips, and pretended to drink. I'd practiced this in the bathroom mirror after she'd left my room last night, tipping the glass, making swallowing motions, but keeping my throat closed, letting the liquid just touch my lips and then pulling back. All of it, Mom, Nicole said. She was watching intently. I pretended to take another long drink, then lowered the glass. I need to use the bathroom. Finish the smoothie first, she pressed. Nicole, I really need to go. We stared at each other for a long moment. Then she smiled and took the glass. Of course. I'll wait here. In the bathroom, I locked the door and leaned against it, my heart pounding. I had maybe 2 minutes before she'd start wondering why I was taking so long. I pulled out my phone and texted Margaret. Need help. Something wrong? Can you come over? Her response came immediately. On my way. 10 minutes. When I came out of the bathroom, Nicole was sitting on my bed, holding the smoothie glass. Feeling better? Much better. Good. Now finish this. She held out the glass. Before I could take it, the doorbell rang. Nicole's expression flickered. Surprise, annoyance. She set down the glass and went to answer the door. I heard Margaret's voice in the entryway, loud and cheerful. Joan! I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd pop by. How are you feeling? Margaret appeared in my doorway, Nicole trailing behind her, looking unhappy. Margaret took one look at me and her smile faltered. Oh, honey, she said, coming to sit beside me on the bed. You look exhausted. Are you eating enough? She's on a special nutrition plan, Nicole interjected, very carefully balanced for her recovery. Margaret picked up the smoothie glass from the bedside table and sniffed it. This is what you're giving her? It smells like a swamp. It's very nutritious, all organic ingredients plus supplements for bone health. What kind of supplements? Margaret asked. She'd been a nurse before she retired. She knew to ask questions. The usual, calcium, vitamin D. Can I see the bottles? Margaret interrupted. Nicole's smile went rigid. Why would you need to see them? Professional curiosity. I'd like to know what my friends are taking. Drug interactions can be dangerous, especially at our age. There was a long pause. Then Nicole said, They're in the kitchen. I'll get them. After she left, Margaret leaned close and whispered, What's going on? I think she's poisoning me, I whispered back. There's an unmarked jar in the kitchen cabinet, white powder. My dentist thinks I'm calling 911, Margaret said, pulling out her phone. No, wait. I don't have proof, just suspicions, if I'm wrong. Joan, look at yourself. You're barely conscious. You look like you've lost 30 pounds. This isn't suspicion, this is... Nicole came back with an armful of supplement bottles, all properly labeled. Of course, she wouldn't bring the unmarked jar. Here, she said, setting them on the bed. I got them at Whole Foods. I have the receipts if you'd like to see them. Margaret examined each bottle carefully. These all look fine, but Joan mentioned there was another supplement, an unmarked white powder. I watched Nicole's face. For just a second, something flashed across it. Fear? Anger? Then it was gone, replaced by confused concern. I have no idea what she's talking about. Mom has been very confused lately. I've been meaning to mention it to David. I think we might need to have her evaluated. Cognitive decline can happen after surgery, especially at her age. I'm not confused, I said, but my voice came out weak, uncertain. Of course not, honey, Nicole said, patting my hand. You're just tired. And Margaret, while I appreciate your concern, I'm Joan's caregiver right now. David and I have this under control. Margaret looked at me. I could see the conflict in her face, belief warring with doubt. Nicole sounded so reasonable, so concerned, and I looked like a confused old woman who might be imagining things. I should call David, I said suddenly. I want to talk to my son. He's in a meeting, Nicole said quickly. That big Denver presentation, remember? He can't be interrupted. I'll have him call you tonight. Give me my phone, I said, louder than I intended. I want to call my son now. Nicole's mask slipped, just for a second, but both Margaret and I saw it, the flash of rage before she composed herself. Of course, she said with exaggerated patience. Let me get your phone from the kitchen. I think you left it there this morning. After she left, Margaret gripped my hand. I believe you, she whispered, but we need proof. Real proof. The jar, I whispered back, in the kitchen cabinet above the fridge. Get it while she's getting my phone. Margaret moved fast for a woman in her 70s. She was out of the room before Nicole came back. Nicole returned with my phone, but her eyes were darting around. Where did Margaret go? Bathroom, I said. We could hear Margaret in the kitchen, the sound of cabinets opening. Nicole's face went pale. What is she doing? Nicole asked, already moving toward the door. That's when Margaret screamed. We both rushed to the kitchen. Well, Nicole rushed. I hobbled as fast as I could with my cane. Margaret was standing by the open cabinet, the step stool beneath her. In her hand was the unmarked white jar. What is this? Margaret demanded, holding it up. This was hidden behind all the legitimate supplements. No label, no ingredients list. What have you been putting in Joan's smoothies? Nicole's face had gone from pale to red. That's protein powder. I buy it in bulk to save money. Then, why is it not labeled? Why is it hidden? It's not hidden, it's just in the back. I'm calling 911, Margaret said, pulling out her phone. That's when everything happened at once. Nicole lunged for the jar. Margaret pulled back. The jar slipped from both their hands and hit the floor, shattering. White powder exploded across the kitchen tiles, and Nicole, instead of looking upset about the mess, looked absolutely terrified. No, she breathed. No, no, no. I need police and an ambulance, Margaret said, her voice shaking. I think someone's been poisoning my friend. Nicole backed toward the door. This is insane. You're all insane. I've been taking care of Joan, and this is the thanks I get? Accusations and— Don't move, Margaret said firmly. The police are coming. You can explain everything to them. But Nicole did move. She grabbed her purse from the counter and ran. We heard the front door slam, the sound of her car starting. By the time Margaret and I made it to the window, Nicole was already backing out of the driveway, tires squealing. She's running, Margaret said into the phone. She just fled the scene. Silver Honda Civic, license plate. She rattled off the number she'd memorized from all the times she'd seen it parked in my driveway. I sank into a kitchen chair, staring at the white powder scattered across my floor. This was real. This was actually real. My daughter-in-law had been poisoning me. The question was why. The police arrived within 10 minutes. 2 officers, one young and earnest, one older and skeptical. They took pictures of the powder, the broken jar, the cabinet full of supplements. They listened to our story. Margaret's version was clearer than mine, which kept getting tangled up in my shock and confusion. And you think your daughter-in-law was poisoning you, the older officer said, not quite hiding his doubt. For what reason? I don't know, I admitted. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. We weren't close, but I never thought— I don't understand why she would— Money, Margaret interrupted. Has to be money. Joan, tell them about your house. I'd almost forgotten. It felt like it happened in another lifetime, but it had only been 8 months ago. My younger son Jason died suddenly. Heart attack. After the funeral, I told David, that's my surviving son, Nicole's husband, that I was going to update my will. The house would go to him now instead of being split between both sons. The officers exchanged looks. What's the house worth? The older one asked. About $800,000, and it's paid off. Frank's life insurance took care of the mortgage years ago. And your daughter-in-law heard this conversation? She was there, at my house, right after Jason's funeral. I didn't think— it was just family talk. I was just telling David my plans. The younger officer was taking notes. And the hip surgery happened when— March, about 3 months ago. 3 months, Margaret said. 3 months of daily smoothies. 3 months of watching Joan deteriorate. If Joan had died, it would have looked like complications from surgery. An elderly woman who just couldn't recover. The older officer nodded slowly. We need to get this powder tested. And, Mrs. Peters, you need to go to the hospital, get blood work done, toxicology screening. If there is something in your system, we need documentation. An ambulance arrived. Paramedics checked my vitals. Blood pressure, dangerously low, heart rate irregular, severe dehydration. They wanted to transport me immediately. I'm going with her, Margaret said firmly. In the ambulance, strapped to a gurney with an IV in my arm, I finally let myself cry. Not from pain, but from the sheer betrayal of it all. Nicole had stood in my kitchen every morning with a smile on her face and poison in her hand. She'd touched my arm, called me mom, let me think we were bonding, and all along, she'd been killing me. My phone rang. David's number. Margaret answered it for me. David, it's Margaret. I'm with your mother. We're in an ambulance. A pause. No, she's going to be okay. But I need to tell you something about Nicole. I listened as Margaret explained everything. I heard David's voice rising in disbelief on the other end. That's impossible. Nicole would never… Mom, is this true? Is Margaret serious? Margaret handed me the phone. It's true, I said, my voice hoarse. David, I'm so sorry, but it's true. She ran when the police came. She's gone. I can't. He sounded broken. Mom, I'm coming home. I'm getting on the next flight. I'll be there in a few hours. David, there's something else you should know. Something I heard Nicole say once, weeks ago. I paused, trying to remember exactly. She was on the phone with someone. I heard her say, just a few more weeks, and then the house and something about bills. I thought she was talking about construction or something. But she was talking about my house, wasn't she? She was waiting for me to die so you'd inherit it. Silence on the other end. Then, we're in debt. Fertility treatments, my failed startup, her student loans. I didn't know it was that bad until a few months ago. She kept saying not to worry, that we'd figure it out. Oh, God, Mom. Oh, God, was this her way of figuring it out? After he hung up, Margaret held my hand as the ambulance raced through Portland traffic. You're going to be okay, she said. But I wasn't sure I believed her. At the hospital, they ran every test imaginable. Blood work, urine samples, hair samples. Dr. Lee came by. The hospital had called her since she'd been the one to first raise concerns. She squeezed my hand and said, You trusted your instincts. That saved your life. The toxicology results came back 3 days later. The detective, a woman named Garcia who'd taken over the case, delivered the news in person. The powder from your kitchen floor tested positive for a pesticide, highly toxic, causes exactly the symptoms you were experiencing: weakness, tremors, cognitive issues, and specifically, it causes severe dental enamel erosion. Long-term exposure causes organ failure. Mrs. Peters, if you'd kept drinking those smoothies for another few weeks… She didn't need to finish the sentence. Where does someone even get something like that? I asked. It's controlled, but available through certain industrial suppliers. We're tracking Nicole's purchases now. She bought it online 6 months ago using her maiden name. Detective Garcia consulted her notes. Right after your son Jason's funeral. Right after she heard about your will. Nicole was arrested 2 days later. They found her at her mother's house in Seattle, already trying to dye her hair and talking about going to Canada. She'd taken $70,000 from a joint account she shared with David, money they'd been saving for fertility treatments, and was planning to run. When they searched her laptop, they found everything. Searches for undetectable poisons, research on how long until dementia diagnosis, calculations of how much money they'd have after selling my house. Even a draft text to David that she'd never sent. Mom passed peacefully this morning. She was just too weak to recover. At least now she's not suffering anymore. She'd been planning my death announcement before I was even dead. David came home and stayed with me during my recovery. Without the poison, my body slowly started to heal. I gained back some weight, though the dental damage was permanent. I'd need extensive work, crowns, possibly implants. My hair grew back patchier than before, but I was alive. The trial was quick. Nicole's lawyer tried to claim temporary insanity, that the stress of debt and infertility had broken her mind. But the prosecution had months of evidence showing careful, methodical planning. The jury took less than 4 hours to convict her of attempted murder. She got 20 years. David divorced her immediately, though I could see it destroyed him. He blamed himself for not seeing it, for being gone so much. You couldn't have known, I told him one night as we sat in my living room. She fooled everyone, even me, and I was the one she was poisoning. I thought we were finally bonding. She's a sociopath, David said bitterly. That's what the psychiatrist said. She's incapable of caring about anyone but herself. Maybe, but I kept thinking about that first week after surgery, when Nicole had been so gentle. Had that all been an act, or had some small part of her wanted to be a good daughter-in-law? before the debt and the desperation took over. Today, 18 months after that last poison smoothie, I'm doing well. Not great. I still tire easily and my teeth will never be the same. But I'm alive. I still see Margaret every week. She saved my life, and I'll never forget that. We have lunch at the same cafe every Thursday, and we always order real food. No smoothies, never smoothies. David moved back to Portland and got a job here. He's rebuilding his life and, slowly, his relationship with me. We're both learning to trust again, though it doesn't come easy. And me? I'm learning to trust my instincts. I've learned that sometimes the people who smile the brightest are hiding the darkest intentions. Our instincts exist for a reason. When something feels wrong, when someone's kindness feels performative, don't dismiss it. Don't tell yourself you're being paranoid or judgmental. Trust and follow your instincts. If you're still listening, please press the like button and subscribe. It's free and helps other families find this story. Because this didn't just happen to me. It's happening right now to someone else. In another kitchen, with another smile, maybe with another health drink that's anything but healthy.